Peace and blessings. The following is a short video presentation for the Sacred Breath Archives on the current collective psychology of humankind, and in particular the implications of secret societies and those who hide, that is, those who occult knowledge from their fellow humans. First, it is important to briefly explain the extreme as above, so below, or as within, so without reality. Many understand the psychological and spiritual challenges we face within us as individuals will reflect themselves into so-called real external events and phenomena. Likewise, the psychological and spiritual challenges we face as a collective people will also manifest in events and phenomena that follow similar archetypal patterns, only on a much grander scale. One such way this happens, that many may be familiar with, is through the divination arts such as astrology. Contrary to popular belief of the masses, astrology is not the study of how heavenly bodies affect the individual. The heavenly bodies act simply as a map to the archetypal, cyclical patterning of man's psyche. All would agree that it is absurd to say that the earth turns as it does because of the effects of some mysterious force that clocks have on it. A clock is simply a way to track and map the revolution of the earth. The same applies for astrology, although further explanation of this is beyond the scope of the presentation. In a similar manner, I believe that many ancient stories that we have incorrectly called myth are indeed the retelling of actual events that occurred in literal history. They may not be 100% accurate, and they may be embellished in certain details. They may not also be originally associated with the peoples of whom we have received those stories from. Many stories have passed through many different cultures, but the names and places are often changed so as to relate to the particular culture. These events have archetypal themes that continue to manifest as maps and guides to the spiritual and psychological issues that we as humans have not dealt with. Just as it was said earlier, that the individual will attract certain life challenges and situations to themselves based on their psychological and spiritual state of being. In particular, it would appear that humanity's current state of apathetic, detached, zombie-like psychopathy is in large part because of peoples, both past and present, who have held knowledge from the general masses of humanity. This includes those who did and do so with malicious intent, and those who have mistakenly done so with good intent. There are those both past and present who have felt that knowledge of the spiritual and psychological inner workings of both man and the universe should be kept secret and only disclosed to a certain few who are deemed worthy. I can understand the thinking behind wanting to keep certain knowledge secret so that it does not fall into the hands of those with malicious intent. However, the following problems arise even when intent is sincere. Firstly, no one has the right to own truth. There is no monopoly on the truth, and every man has a right to it. Therefore, to purposely withhold the truth is against the laws of nature or God. Secondly, having another human or group of humans judging who and who isn't worthy of certain information is to go against the hierarchical nature of the universe, where each man must be deemed righteous by his own conscience, that is, his own link to the divine mind. It is not for another to judge who is and isn't worthy of truth, as nature itself has accounted for this in its laws. Nature herself judges who is and isn't worthy of truth through means of initiation and rites of passage in the form of moral challenges for both the individual and the collective. We can notice how man has attempted to replicate this through such things as the lodge system of Freemasonry and other secret societies. We are already members, though, of the Grand Lodge of Life, so to speak, and law and truth herself will guide us to her if we pay attention. In the Kemetic or ancient Egyptian spiritual system, they gave the image of the weighing of the heart with the feather of truth. Those whose heart was not in balance with truth were devoured by Amit, a creature that was part crocodile, part lion, and part hippopotamus, the three largest man-eating animals known to the Kemetic people. Those who are not worthy of truth in accordance with their thoughts, emotions, and actions are devoured by their own shadow. Lastly, on a global scale, by keeping truth hidden, man as a collective is like an individual who has intellectual knowledge of the truth but refuses to live accordingly. They lock that truth somewhere in the shadows of their being. They continue to live a life of greed, materialism, and selflessness because they refuse to look within at the self. This leads to a contradiction of being and a house divided amongst itself, which, as we know, cannot stand. And so we get both an individual and a people rife with mental illness and in many cases psychopathy. If, however, the truth is disclosed to all people, if all have free access to information about the occult knowledge of man and the universe, then they would, without hindrance, be able to address the self, recognize rites of passage in their life, and see life as one great initiation into the mysteries of the universe. They would be guided to truth by truth herself, and would quickly recognize the ways in which they are failing through an understanding of the laws that govern moral behavior. It is therefore the moral obligation of those who come to truth, however small that portion of truth they have come to is, to speak and live that truth. You have no obligation to convince others of anything. There is no point banging your head against a brick wall. But humbly present people with what you know. Live so that there is no contradiction in your being, and let the truth do the rest.